The dojo was a cathedral of sweat and discipline, the air thick with the smell of mats and determination. For Mia, a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo, it was her second home. She had grown up within these walls, her calloused feet familiar with every inch of the sprung floor. She trained not for trophies, but for the purity of the art, the focus it demanded, the way it silenced the noise of the outside world. When the dojo hosted an open sparring session, inviting martial artists from other disciplines, she saw it as an opportunity to learn and to share. The newcomers were from a Krav Maga school across town. They were a boisterous group, their movements sharp and efficient, designed for the brutal pragmatism of street fighting. Their instructor, a man named Cole with a thick neck and a permanent sneer, watched his students warm up with a look of smug satisfaction. When Mia stepped onto the mat to begin a round of light sparring, the atmosphere shifted. She was paired with one of Cole's students, a woman named Tara who was built like a brick wall and moved with a heavy-footed aggression. The rules were clear: light contact, control, and respect. Tara, however, seemed to have a different interpretation. From the first touch of their gloves, her strikes were hard, meant to bruise and intimidate. Mia, graceful and precise, used her footwork to evade the worst of it, landing clean, controlled kicks to Tara's midsection and head that were technically perfect, but lacked power. She was playing the game as it was meant to be played. The unspoken tension in the dojo was palpable. It was a clash of philosophies, the art versus the combat. Cole, watching from the sidelines, began to offer loud, pointed critiques. "Don't dance with her, Tara. Close the distance. She's a ballerina, not a fighter." His words were a verbal prod, and Tara responded. She started bull-rushing Mia, ignoring the finesse of the sport and turning the spar into a brawl. Mia would sidestep, tap her with a kick, and retreat, a look of confusion on her face. This wasn't the training she knew. Then came the moment that changed everything. Mia saw an opening and threw a fast, controlled roundhouse kick that caught Tara on the side of the head. It was a perfect point, a clear hit that would have scored in any tournament. But instead of acknowledging it, Tara grunted, a flash of pure rage crossing her face. She ignored the strike completely. Before Mia could reset, Tara lunged forward, wrap her arms around Mia's waist and driving her backward. They crashed to the mat with a sickening thud, the air driven from Mia's lungs. Tara, now on top, used her immense weight to pin Mia down. She wasn't trying to submit her, she was just holding her there, a dominant, static weight. "Know your place," Tara hissed, her face inches from Mia's. "This is real fighting. Your little karate moves don't work here." The dojo owner, a gentle old man, called out for them to break it up, his voice lost in the sudden roar of approval from the Krav Maga students. Mia struggled, her technique useless against the raw, crushing weight. She was trapped, humiliated, the cheers of the visitors washing over her like dirty water. The dojo, her sanctuary, had become a cage. From the back of the room near the water fountain, a man watched the scene unfold. He was lean, with close-cropped hair and the kind of quiet stillness that came from a life lived on the edge. His name was John, and he was a guest of the dojo owner, an old friend from a different life entirely. He hadn't come to spar. He had come for a moment of peace, to watch the simple beauty of martial arts. He saw the illegal takedown, the deliberate pin, the cruel words whispered in Mia's ear. He saw the dojo owner's authority being trampled. He saw a fundamental disrespect for the spirit of the place. He placed his paper cup in the trash and walked onto the mat. The room fell silent. His presence was like a cold front moving in. He didn't look at Cole or Tara. He walked directly to the dojo owner, spoke a few quiet words, and received a grateful, weary nod. Then he turned to Cole. "Your student needs a partner," John said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried to every corner of the room. "I'll oblige." Cole sized him up. John was fit, but he lacked the bulging muscles of his own students. He had the look of a runner or a swimmer. "You sure, old man?" Cole chuckled. "This isn't a game of patty cake." John simply stepped onto the mat, facing Tara, who had finally released a shaken Mia. Mia scrambled to the edge of the mat, her eyes wide. She watched as John gave her a small, reassuring nod. The look in his eyes wasn't anger. It was a calm, terrifying certainty. The round began. Tara, full of confidence, immediately tried the same tactic. She charged. But John was no longer where she was charging. He moved with a fluid, explosive economy that was breathtaking. It wasn't taekwondo or karate. It was a system designed for one purpose: to neutralize a threat with maximum efficiency. As Tara lunged, he wasn't there. A sharp, precise strike to the inside of her lead leg made her stumble. Before she could recover, he flowed around her like water, his arms snaking around her neck in a vice-like choke. In one seamless motion, he took her back, her weight suddenly irrelevant as he used her own momentum against her. He didn't throw her, he just deposited her onto the mat, face down, with him mounted on her back in a position of total, inescapable control. The transition from standing to total domination took less than 3 seconds. The room was dead silent. Tara struggled, thrashing wildly, but John was a dead weight, immovable. He didn't gloat. He didn't speak. He just held her there, demonstrating a level of control so complete it was almost clinical. After a moment, he simply let her go and stood up, his breathing even. He offered no hand, no gesture of sportsmanship. He just looked at Cole. Cole's face was a thundercloud of rage and humiliation. He stepped onto the mat. "All right, smart guy, let's see what you've got." What followed was not a sparring match. It was an education. Cole, with his Krav Maga background, was a dangerous man. He threw powerful punches and kicks aimed at soft targets. John, however, was operating on a different plane. He was a SEAL. His training wasn't about winning a match, it was about surviving a firefight, about dominating a room of armed hostiles, about function under unimaginable stress. Cole threw a heavy punch. John didn't block it. He flowed inside it, the blow grazing his shoulder as he collapsed the distance, delivering a short, devastating elbow to Cole's ribs. Cole grunted and threw a knee. John's leg came up not to block, but to check it with his shin, a painful block that sent a shock of agony up Cole's leg. He then swept Cole's supporting leg, not with a dramatic kick, but with a precise, low-line shin strike that took his feet out from under him. As Cole fell, John caught him, guided him down, and in an instant had him in a brutal arm lock that could have snapped his elbow with the slightest pressure. It was over. John released the hold immediately and stood, stepping back. Cole lay on the mat, clutching his arm, his face a mask of shock and pain. John looked at him, then at Tara, then at the rest of the stunned Krav Maga students. He didn't say a word. He simply walked over to Mia, who was still sitting on the edge of the mat, her arms wrapped around her knees. He crouched down, bringing himself to her eye level. The terrifying calm was gone, replaced by a quiet kindness. "You have beautiful technique," he said, his voice gentle. "Don't ever let anyone tell you it doesn't work. The art isn't the problem. The context was." Mia just stared at him, her emotions a tangled mess of gratitude, awe, and a dawning, powerful realization. She had just witnessed a level of martial ability she had never conceived of. It wasn't about flash or style, it was about pure, undeniable effectiveness. Cole got to his feet, his face pale. He gathered his students without a word, and they filed out of the dojo, the silence heavier than their earlier boasts. The door clicked shut behind them, and the dojo felt like itself again, but changed, cleaner. John offered Mia his hand. She took it, and he helped her up with surprising ease. "You know," he said, glancing towards the door where the other school had exited, "the most important lesson I ever learned was that a real fight isn't about proving you're tough. It's about going home. It's about protecting yourself and others. That's it. That woman didn't hurt you because she was stronger. She hurt you because she broke the rules, and you were playing by them. The first rule of any real engagement is that there are no rules." Mia spent the next hour talking with John. He spoke about his training, not with arrogance, but with a kind of detached professionalism. He explained that his techniques were stripped of ceremony, built from the ground up to work in the most chaotic environments imaginable. He showed her a few simple, devastating defenses against common grabs and holds, things that bypassed strength and used leverage and anatomy. He talked about the mental aspect, the most crucial part. Fear is a sensor, he told her. It's data. It tells you there's a threat. What you do with that data is what matters. You can freeze, you can panic, or you can let it focus you. The goal is to make your mind go quiet when your body is screaming. He taught her a simple breathing technique, a box breathing pattern used by SEALs to calm the nervous system under fire. For Mia, it was like learning a new language for her body. Her taekwondo was poetry. His system was prose, direct, functional, and brutally efficient. It wasn't about replacing her art, but about adding a new essential chapter. The art gave her form and grace. His world gave her context and survival. The encounter became a pivotal moment in her life. She didn't quit taekwondo. Instead, she deepened her practice, but with a new understanding. She sought out other disciplines, learning BJJ for ground fighting, Muay Thai for its devastating clinch work, and studying the principles of John's combatives. She began to cross-train, to blend the art with the science of violence. She started teaching self-defense classes at the dojo, focusing on the very situations the other school had exploited. How to deal with being pinned, how to defend against a larger, stronger attacker who didn't play by the rules. She taught the young girls and women who came to her dojo that knowing their place was a concept to be shattered, not accepted. Months later, Mia was at a regional martial arts tournament. She was in the competitors' area, stretching, when she saw a familiar brick wall figure across the room. It was Tara. She was with her Krav Maga school and they were watching some matches. Their eyes met. For a long moment, the past hung between them. Then, Tara looked away. It wasn't a dismissive look. It was a flicker of something else. Shame? Respect? Mia didn't know, and it didn't matter. She no longer defined herself by that moment of being held down. It was just a scar, a piece of her history that had made her stronger. She got up and walked over to the ring where her division was being called. On her way, she passed Tara. Without stopping, without a word, she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't a gesture of forgiveness, but of acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that they were both on the same path, just at different points. It was the nod of one martial artist to another. In the ring, Mia faced her opponent. She moved with the same grace and precision she always had, her kicks high and sharp, her footwork light. But now, there was something else, a new weight to her stance, a stillness in her eyes. When her opponent tried to close the distance, to bull rush her as Tara had done, Mia was ready. She didn't try to dance away. She dropped her level, met the charge with a solid, rooted stance, and in one fluid motion, used her opponent's momentum to execute a perfect hip throw, landing her gently on the mat for a decisive point. The crowd applauded. Her instructor beamed with pride. But the most important approval came from within. As she helped her opponent up, she felt a quiet, profound sense of peace. The girl who had been held down and told to know her place was gone. In her place stood a woman who knew exactly where she stood, on her own 2 feet, strong, skilled, and unafraid. The Navy SEAL hadn't just shattered a match that day, he had shattered a cage she didn't even know she was in, and set her free to build something far more formidable.